Prodeus is finally out. I did a video on it 2 years ago when it was in early access. If you saw that video, you're gonna hear a lot of what I said again. It's still the same Prodeus that it was 2 years ago, but with improvements, a lot more levels, better balancing, and one of its best features continues to be the community maps, and you can play everything in 2 to 4 player co-op with enemy HP modifiers. I played a little co-op and it was perfect, no delay, no disconnections. One of my issues with Prodeus in early access was the level variety. The maps themselves are well designed in terms of combat areas, exploration for secrets, and a general intuitive nature of design that keeps you moving forward without explicitly telling you where to go with objective markers. And they do look good in the art style, but levels started to feel the same as they use a lot of the same colors. After 7 or 8 maps of brown and gray bases with neon accents, the game started to lose me a bit. Thankfully, as the game goes on in the new chapters, more level variety starts to appear. Castle-like environments, some spaces that feel like Quake 3 arenas. I was blown away by the look of the outside level in the rain. The alien worlds where the rooms shift around as you progress were exciting. There's a few ice levels. It's nice to see Prodeus find some more confidence in its art style as it goes on. Enemies are presented in sprite form, and you can change them to 3D models. It'll be up to your own taste. I prefer the sprites. I feel the combat has more impact with the sprite animations, and the really fluid-looking movement of the models was distracting to me. Speaking of distracting, make sure you turn on minimal HUD to get that visor effect off the screen. I very much like the implementation of the upgrade system, which I don't believe was in the version I played before. You find pieces of ore throughout the levels, many of them in secret locations, and you spend that ore at shops around the map. The first 2 weapons you'll unlock are the quad-barrel super shotgun and the plasma rifle, both costing 15 ore. I know it's tempting to go super shotgun right away, but trust me, you'll want that plasma rifle just because of it being a separate ammo requirement. You'll have more breathing room regarding your resources in those big fights, since plasma ammo is liberally scattered throughout the early levels. Doing weapon unlocks this way is great because it incentivizes secret hunting, which is fun, and it incentivizes the optional challenge maps. Challenges like, complete a run of this map shooting targets with only the rocket launcher in under 1 minute and 10 seconds, and you'll get 3 pieces of ore. Players are gonna want those weapon unlock points, and they'll be learning weapon strategy as they do it. Again, slow clap, take some fucking notes on how to design in-game challenges. The difficulty of Prodeus is alright. It's hard to evaluate just how hard it is due to the checkpoint system, and we'll get to that later. A lot of your deaths are probably going to come from being surprised by kamikaze drones, and some of you are going to get a bit irritated by that. On the highest difficulty, a lot of the game is still pretty easy, but as it goes on, you're going to find more and more challenging areas and enemy types. The final battle is very challenging, and one of the best arena fights I've played in any FPS this year. When Prodeus is firing on all cylinders, I'm happy. The action and gore still impress, there's so much carnage. The new levels are at times gorgeous, the music is great, and the weapons are satisfying as fuck. I don't recall the plasma rifle being able to tag surfaces in the early access build that I played. I remember you could tag enemies, but I'm seeing that you can tag walls or floors and then curve the plasma arc to hit enemies in its path. That is awesome. It's my favorite weapon in the game. Not all weapons hit the mark though. The base shotgun still feels kinda unsatisfying, which is a detriment to the game's first few levels since they are heavily focused on shotgun use. The alternative fire still feels kinda meh, and once the super shotgun comes into play, the base shotgun might as well be discarded altogether. And the grenade launcher, while having a cool sticky bomb function, just tends to be outshined by the rocket launcher and its remote detonation ability. Since these 2 weapons share the same ammo type, I personally feel the grenade launcher ends up being a bit redundant and easy to forget about. There's probably something I'm overlooking in the grenade launcher. You're welcome to tell me about it in the comments. Though I will say in the final battle, when I was surrounded most of the time, being able to shoot 6 grenades one after another instead of shooting 1 rocket and then reloading was very useful. Sadly, there's just not many other moments like this. The Chaos Caster is really unsatisfying to use. It's a demonic melting bubble launcher, less satisfying than the Unreal Tournament bio rifle, and that's saying something. The chain gun is an absolute beast, my second favorite gun in the game. It feels so good to mow down groups of enemies or back away and take down a large monster. I found it to be very useful against the large floating guys that constantly spawn drones at you, so you can eliminate the drones and get good consistent damage on the spawner. But outside of that, you're gonna have to be really careful how you integrate the chain gun into the more chaotic moments. If you're playing this game on the highest difficulty, the drastic degree to which the gun slows your movement is gonna make it hard to use in arena fights. You can die in just 2 hits sometimes, and trying to use it equals death in a lot of situations, meaning you gotta use the submachine guns, which are awesome but have to be reloaded constantly. Which brings me to the reloading. There was a lot of back and forth about reloading when this game first became playable. Lots of people said the reloading needs to get out, and others said the reloading was fun and added more strategy to the combat. They're both right. The fact that reloading is a thing means that you need to switch weapons when combat gets intense. Just running in a circle for a few seconds while your gun reloads can easily get you killed, especially in the later levels. I like that. I like that after I empty out my machine guns, I should swap to the super shotgun and blast that huge monster next to me, and then switch to the plasma and back off, and I'm not reloading between all these weapon swaps. After that series, you'll need to find moments to reload, or you'll have to depend on rockets for a while. I like it, but it doesn't stop the reloading from being really tedious sometimes, because you're reloading all the time. Reloading is traditionally not part of games that have large arsenals. It's for military shooters or cover shooters and other games that have 2 to 4 weapon limits. When you have 6 to 8 weapons, you end up in situations where you can't be ready for the next fight unless you reload like 5 guns. You gotta reload the plasma rifle, and the machine guns, and the super shotgun, and the regular shotgun, and the arc rail, and the grenade launcher. Honestly, I'm kinda tired of it. I feel like I spend 30% of combat reloading. I am in support of the tactical reload side of the argument, I really am. Like I just said, I like the pressure. But Prodeus, in my opinion, desperately needs a passive reload mechanic. Make it to where if a gun is off screen for like 4 seconds or 10 seconds, I don't know, but after it's off screen for a while, you can pull it out and fire again without reloading first. You'd get the same weapon swap incentives without the tedium of mass reloading moments after or even during fights. Then everyone is happy. You want to use a gun a lot? Reload it. You want to cycle through your weapons? Skip the reload. 2 ways to play. Moving on. Ammo management is pretty solid in Prodeus. Sometimes you feel flushed with ammo and you can use whatever you want, but there are definitely times where I ran out of machine gun rounds, or shotgun shells, or chaos rounds, and I had to rely on other weapons. Higher tier enemies later in the game can't be one-shot with the arc rail, so ammo for that starts to get low. Enemies get shields, so you're using more resources to kill them. It's hard to just run away shotgun over and over when you're surrounded by enemies that kill you this quickly. And under the immense pressure that some rooms can provide, certain enemy types end up pushing certain weapons, as you need to act quickly. You'll pull out the arc rail to insta-kill a far-off sniper as you empty your 4-barrel super shotgun into a giant beast in front of you, and then tag that elite enemy with the plasma and take cover. Prodeus has a pretty decent mix of weapon utility, resource management, and reloading to get you into the fun zone from time to time. I've been playing Prodeus a lot these days, mostly on stream, because I've needed some downtime playing something a little more simple than the high adrenaline shooters I've been covering lately. Prodeus fills that role well. It's a good game to play while streaming and chatting because I can kind of be half present in the game and still be making good progress. Here and there, there's a challenging fight where I need to pay attention and play well, or I get my ass kicked. And that's the kind of balance I'm looking for at the moment. But what I said isn't really true. The part about paying attention and playing well to get through a challenging fight. Because, unfortunately, and a lot of you know what I'm about to say, Prodeus still has the same broken checkpoint system it had when it went into early access 2 years ago. I gotta explain it again, and I'm gonna tell you 3 reasons why this checkpoint system sucks and flat out ruins significant parts of this game. When you hit a checkpoint in Prodeus, a nexus point, you activate an area that you'll respawn to when you die. Obviously, that's how checkpoints work. but Prodeus remembers all the enemies you've killed and has them remain dead, so it's not really a checkpoint at all. As someone in my Twitch chat brilliantly put it, it's like your weapons are teleported to a fresh new body and the fight continues. If you walk into a room with 20 enemies and you kill 17 of them and you die, you respawn at the nexus point, and then you just have to kill the last 3. And there's just nothing satisfying about it. In the more difficult fights where you die several times, it starts to feel like you're just beating your head against the wall until you clear the room instead of actually winning the fight. And I know I speak for a lot of people when I say that if I walk into a fight, I want to win the fight. I want to prove that I can do it. And Prodeus gives you no way to start the fight over and show that you can make it through. You'd have to restart the entire level and work your way all the way back just to get another chance. There is no punishment for death. In fact, it feels more like you're rewarded because you get to respawn at full health that you can carry into the next area after you clean up the remaining enemies. There were so many moments where I was having fun trying to survive a difficult fight only to die and say, well, I guess the fun is over now. Oh well. And the next several minutes of gameplay left me feeling really soured on the game. I know I get a lot of crap for supposedly stating my opinion as fact, but I'm just gonna straight up say this is an awful design decision. This checkpoint system robs you of any sense of satisfaction the high combat moments could offer. It deflates the entire experience several times in each level if you die at all during the action. That's the first problem. The second problem, and this is all stuff I pointed out 2 years ago, is that since the checkpoints remember all the enemies you've killed, you can regularly find yourself respawning back like 8 rooms ago and having to run through a bunch of empty spaces doing nothing just to get back to the room you died in and kill the last few guys effortlessly. And I just gotta ask, what is the point? What is supposed to be fun about this? Problem number 3 ties back to reloading. Respawning at a nexus point after dying in combat doesn't reset your weapons. So if you use, say, 4 weapons that all need to be reloaded, when you respawn, you have to reload all of them. You could die in the middle of a really tough fight that has a nexus point in it, respawn right there in the middle, and be stuck reloading before you can do anything. It's so bad. The checkpoint system is by far the biggest issue with Prodeus, and if I scored games on a 10-point system, this aspect alone would have me deducting 1.5 points at minimum. At least if there was a lives system, there would be some decent pressure to play well and not just give up and mindlessly bully your way through the harder fights. Because why not? The only thing that dying affects is your end of level score. And I mean, sure, that is something. It's better than nothing. If you care about your place on the leaderboard, it'll do something for you. Other than that, the points are entirely arbitrary. I'm not saying that point systems need to be more than just something to shoot for on a personal satisfaction level or leaderboards in every game, but with a death and resurrection system this busted and unsatisfying, a point system that affects gameplay in some way would at least make some difference. How do you make point systems affect gameplay? I'll give 2 examples. 1. Dying less increases your points, and reaching different point levels unlocks upgrade points to increase magazine capacity for each weapon or max health for your character. 2. Dying less increases your points, and reaching different point levels gives you a one-time use super attack that insta-kills everyone in the room, and you can only hold one of these attacks at any time. Those are just 2 ideas. There's all kinds of ways you can make a point system affect gameplay. Maybe points could grant extra lives. Regardless, even if you did have a point system with an in-game reward like that, or a lives system, it still wouldn't fix the broken nature of the checkpoint system. Because if you die once, the fight is ruined. There's no option to replay the fight from the beginning. And look, it's not like I go into these fights knowing that I can bully through and just automatically play dumb. I already enjoy how Prodeus plays. I want to play good because of that. I am trying my best. It's a lot more fun to try to finish the fight without dying. I'm sweating over here, trying to kill every last enemy and pushing myself to play the best I can. But sometimes I get hit, or I get cornered, and I die, and suddenly 100% of the fun I was having has been sucked out, because I don't get to try again. All I can do is march my ass back into the room and kill what's left and move on. I can't express how badly this sucks. I don't even know if it can be fixed, because some of the checkpoints spawn you directly into a fight where you're surrounded and you could die in seconds. So it's like the game was actually designed to have you respawning over and over until everyone is dead. It's so bizarre, and I'll go to my grave wondering why they made it this way. It works alright for co-op, I guess. If you're on voice call with friends and screwing around as you bully through levels, being able to respawn and continue where you left off is fine, I guess. But you can still end up feeling like fights are trivialized by this system. The only time the checkpoint systems don't completely screw the combat is in the levels where you start off being presented with difficult fights. Levels where the first room or several rooms are difficult, and if you die before hitting a checkpoint, you have to restart the level. Those were some of the best parts of the game, because there was an actual consequence to dying. Earlier I said the final fight is really good, and it is, because there are no checkpoints. You have to survive, and that's it. Sadly, no other level offers this kind of excitement because the checkpoint system makes it impossible to do so. Wow, I've been talking about this for a long time now, and there's nothing else left to say. There's so much I like about Prodeus. It did hold my attention until the very end, which is more than I can say for a lot of games. You may think I'm being too hard on it, but it's because of how much I like everything else. Such a massive flaw hurts so much more when it's a game you like. It's such a big problem that it takes Prodeus from being a great game that I recommend to everyone to just being somewhere between decent and good, and a recommendation that has to be made much more cautiously, because it completely fails at an aspect of its design that is incredibly important to me, and that's overall player accountability on a first playthrough. So try Prodeus, or don't. Maybe the checkpoint thing won't bother you, but I have a feeling it'll bother a lot of you. If you do get it, I hope you have fun.